we have heard that originally the concept of the passive house was based around the heat loss being reduced so that the air could be supplied through the ventilation system.
Yes.
Is that still a viable form of heating, or do you see a move away from that method?
No, it is, of course, a national definition of what a passive house is, but nobody is forced to use a specific type of heating system. You can use everything, and the costs for a system will be reduced anyhow, because even if you use a floor heating, you need less length of the heating pipes in the floor, so it will reduce the cost. So there are lots of possibilities what you can do, but the basic definition of a passive house is that it has an energy balance which is as good that it is possible to supply all surfaces just with the supply air, the heating and the cooling. So this is the basic definition.
Thank you. In your opinion, is it possible to have a passive house building with natural ventilation in the UK climate?
Oh, what's UK climate? So is there a part of UK where the winter conditions are stable, higher than, say, 6 degrees all the time?
I think probably not.
So when I'm sorry, I think you will need heat recovery ventilation in the UK climate. All through, it might be that you could have really good low energy houses even without heat recovery. But what I really insist in, for human beings inside of a building, they need fresh air. So you can't solve a problem by reducing the amount of fresh air the persons get. This is what is often discussed, but this is what I don't agree in. We need fresh air, and if you know a little bit about the background of indoor air quality, you know how important that is.
Thank you. And continuing on the theme of comfort, I mean, we hear of there's a passive house requirement for windows to have a minimum surface temperature, which I think at the moment is it 0.8 for the U value of the centre of glass? Is that right?
Yes, for say continental Europe.
Yeah. So how would that change for the UK? Do you think it'd be possible we could do passive houses and pass the comfort criteria using double glazing?
Well, if we come to a development to have a vacuum double glazing, which might be possible in the future, it might be possible even in Central Europe to go back to a double pane vacuum insulated window. But the comfort definition is that the overall surface temperature of a window shouldn't be less than 4 degrees lower than the indoor temperature of a room. And as far as I see, that's not possible with even UK climate with a normal double pane window. So it's near, but it's not exactly
not good enough
value. And what I've seen from other research I've done for UK, I see that if you try to build a passive house and if you try that with a double pane window, you get quite high insulation levels for compensating that. And so I'm quite sure that it's a better idea to add with triple glazing than to add with extra insulation. This is just my opinion.
Thank you. And to continue on the comfort on the same line, the passive house standard has a maximum air leakage of 0.6 air changes at 50 pascals.
Yeah.
And presumably this is to avoid drafts and the need. So, I mean, in a warmer climate such as the UK, slightly warmer than Germany, would it be possible to raise this? Would you think?
No, not at all. I think the airtightness is one of the things that we really have to stick on in almost all climates. There are only a few climates where this might not be but it's a very few, like San Francisco. In San Francisco, you might not need to have it airtight. But in almost all other climates, you need that, because this is a major part of the airtightness requirement is to avoid structural damage. That is, you have a wet indoor air with humidity, and if there is an exfiltration through the construction, you get really big problems of condensation in the structure. So this is a major reason to have it completely airtight. And so I think this is, even in subtropical climates and of course in tropical climates, it has to be airtight because you get structural damage without airtightness.
Oh, thank you for that.
That's it.
And one of the differences that we see in the UK is we have a different method of measuring floor area, useful floor area. We understand the passive house standard is 15 kilowatt hours per square metre. How would you feel if we suggested that we adopted in the UK a lower target, say 13, but used the convention for floor area that we already use?
Which is just a question of recalculating the things. It's, of course, the passive house criteria on an absolute measure, an absolute energy measure, won't change. Now you can decide to change the reference area, but that will change the criteria number, but it won't change the criteria itself. So this is just a simple thing to do. We recommend to use the used floor area on another reason. This is when you look on what is the benefit from building a house, the benefit is the floor area. And so if you use something else than the benefit, there will be ways to optimize the home just by adding not used space, which is not really saving energy, but just a trick to get the numbers fit. So this is one of the reasons why we recommend to do that. But of course, you can choose other measures.